They signed big name quarterback guy who's had a lot of success in the NFL. He's just a little past his prime now, and Mitchell Trubisky, you know, guy who's known for carrying.
I think it'll be good for the Ravens as an NFL team in terms of fantasy for Derrick Henry.
We're gonna kick it right off now with NFL free agency, man. It hit hard on Monday. Hard.
Yeah, dude. They they just started signing people. I mean, like,
It was like boom, boom, boom. This guy's gone.
well,
This guy's gone.
and it's apparent to me that based on all these running back signing, where in the past couple years there haven't been a lot of like it's been tough for running backs to find jobs.
Yeah.
It's apparent to me that this running back class is not good.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
NFL teams obviously see it already. So
Yeah.
not
It's
looking forward to it.
definitely one of the most like lacking in depth running back classes that I can remember in like recent memory.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Yeah.
But what lacks with running backs is made up with receivers.
No,
There's
yeah,
so many
100%.
good receivers.
100%.
Um, I mean, it's kind of insane how many receivers there are that
I know. I
could be
know.
really good options.
It's honestly why that's a big reason why I'm not hurting too bad sitting on. I think I have 3 or 4 second round picks in the Road to Glory League, and I'm not really looking to trade up. Yeah, I've got 4 seconds, and I think I can get four decent players there. Like maybe two of them work out, two of them don't, but I'm happy with that with second round picks. So
Yeah.
I'm trusting the receiver depth for sure.
Yeah, I think some people will slide into the second,
Yeah.
um, and you'll end up with some good value.
Yeah. Little Lad McConkey action.
I
Look out
love
now.
that.
Look out now. Look
I
out
love
now.
that. Depending on the landing spot, we'll see with the
Yeah,
landing spot. He's got the
for sure.
talent, I feel like, but
He goes to like the Patriots.
ooh,
Ah.
ooh,
uh, ooh. Yeah. But anyways, let's kick it right off. And you can just kind of chime in whenever you want. I've got ESPN's free agency tracker basically pulled up. So I'm just gonna kind of like go through the teams and talk about some of the ones that I found interesting. And like I said, whenever you want to chime in or talk about a team or just mention someone randomly, it doesn't have to go in any order. But I'll kick it off with the Bills. The Bills haven't done too much. They signed big name quarterback guy who's had a lot of success in the NFL. He's just a little past his prime now, and Mitchell Trubisky, you know, guy who's known for carrying
uh,
teams. So if Josh Allen goes down, they're good. But yeah, Bills haven't really done anything. They re-signed AJ Epinesa. I think that's how you pronounce it, and Taylor Rapp, which I thought was two great re-signs, but I mean nothing substantial to talk about with the Bills.
yeah, I would say really the most substantial thing for them is letting Gabe Davis walk.
Yep,
That's
yep,
really it.
exactly. Exactly. So sticking in the AFC East, the Dolphins signed Jonnu Smith, which I think is interesting. They also on defense signed Shaq Barrett from the Bucks.
Mm.
And while he is like seriously a little bit past his prime, I still think he can make plays on that Dolphins defense. So I think that's going to be a decent signing for them.
Yeah, yeah, I
Yeah,
think that'll be good. I feel like their defense last year was not as good as it should have been.
yeah,
I don't know, so maybe that'll bolster some issues they got going on.
definitely could. They definitely could. They also signed, I will say, since they aren't talked about very often, they signed a really good center too, Aaron Brewer. So I'm excited to see how he does. It'll be obviously new system, new quarterback. So
Mhm.
it'll take some adjustments because he's a center. But Aaron Brewer is a really good center. Got to look out for if you're ever watching the Dolphins. All right, moving on. Patriots. And one signing I really want to talk about here is I guess they signed Austin Hooper. I didn't even realize that. But the one signing I really wanted to talk about was Antonio Gibson. Do you think this is going to change his fantasy outlook at all? Or do you still think he's just going to be like
Uh,
a mid-tier, occasional, decent flex play?
I don't think it changes anything. I mean, Ramondre Stevenson has proven he can get work out of the backfield too in terms of catching passes. So I I don't really know like where he fits in. I
Yeah.
feel like he's just gonna be in the same role he had before. Not really any change for him.
Yeah. Does
So
he
yeah.
take third down opportunities away from Ramondre though? Does it kind
Uh
of make Ramondre's
maybe.
stock fall?
Maybe. He is bigger, I think, than Ramondre, if I recall. But I mean, also Gibson's never even though he's big, he's never really been like a big between the tackles threat.
Yeah.
So like goal line opportunities, I don't see him getting. Third down maybe for PPR, yeah. Um, but I don't know. I mean, I don't think I don't think it really changes much.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, I
about
don't,
the
I
same.
don't, I don't think so either. I'm kind of right there with you. I think people are kind of overhyping it a little bit. One, because Patriots fans are just a different breed. They're Patriots fans. And
Yeah.
then also just his reputation from the past. Because at one time he was a productive fantasy player, at least decently productive. He was never like a top guy or anything. So I think people are kind of just what's the word? Nostalgia is kind of taken over for some people, and they're making it out to be more than it is.
Yeah.
Um, all right, next team. I skipped the Jets because they haven't really done anything. The Ravens, and you know who I'm talking about here. The
Yep.
Baltimore Ravens just signed. I will say really quick before we talk about Derrick Henry that they did re-sign Justin Matabike, I think is how you pronounce it, who emerged as one of the best interior defensive linemen in the NFL last year. So shout out to them for re-signing him. But Derrick Henry is a Baltimore Raven. Your
Mm.
thoughts?
I think it'll be good. I don't know. I think it'll be good for the Ravens as an NFL team in terms of fantasy for Derrick Henry. I don't know that it helps anymore. I
Yeah,
feel like he'll tread on his tires, getting pretty bald. Like
yeah,
he's got a lot of carries in his career.
yeah. And injuries recently.
And yeah, recently he's had a lot of injuries. I mean, because of the wear and tear on him, I feel like.
Exactly.
So, I mean, he'll be useful, especially around the goal line because he's huge.
For sure.
Um, and they have a rushing attack, as we all know.
Yeah.
So it'll be useful for them. And fantasy wise, I don't know if he's going to be at the tail end of RB1 range. I feel like
I think so
10,
too.
12. And that's probably going to be touchdown dependent. He may have like a James Conner type role.
Yeah, for sure. I could definitely see that. Yeah, I'm pretty much in agreement with you on that. But I've seen some like wild takes with Derrick Henry on the Ravens. Like I saw one dude, I don't even remember it. It might have been in Bleacher Report, like in the app. Somebody I know I saw somebody that's a quote unquote expert say that they thought Derrick Henry could lead the league in rushing. Um, no, those days are just behind him. Like
And
he's not that guy anymore. As much as I hate to say it, because I love Derrick Henry, but it's come on, like let's be
yeah,
semi-realistic here.
yeah. I mean, the dude's 30.
Exactly.
Like that's too old for a running back to. Now, I mean, if anybody's going to be the exception, rather, it
It
would be Derrick
it
Henry.
would be Derrick Henry. That's the truth.
But I mean, I definitely don't see him leading the league in rushing.
No, no, I'm right there with you. Like I said. So the Bengals had a couple of signings. They actually signed a Raven, Geno Stone. I think he was a Raven, if I'm not mistaken. He's a safety. He's a pretty good player. They signed Mike Gesicki and Zach Moss. So I don't. I don't know necessarily that that changes much for either of them in fantasy. Like Zach Moss is a decent player and he proved that with the Colts, but like he still never emerged as like, oh my God, look at this guy, you know. And then Mike
Yeah.
Gesicki is just, I mean, he's only going to catch footballs, so you can't leave him in the game half the time. So that takes away a lot of his value. So
Yeah.
I don't see much change in there fantasy wise.
Yeah, I don't really either. I think Zach Moss could be okay. He could be a decent rental for you if you need just a guy for a year,
Yeah.
but no long term value there because that I mean they're using him as a rental in real life. So I mean he's going to be gone at next year. They're going to draft a guy probably
Yeah.
or
Oh,
sign
I'm
somebody
sure.
else.
I'm sure.
Um, they're just using him as a filler for now, and I mean
Placeholder
he's serviceable,
for
but
sure.
he'll be easily replaced. Gesicki, I don't see him being any more than maybe his like was it his first or second year with Miami, the one that wasn't quite as good.
Yeah.
I don't.
I can't remember which year it was, but yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I'm right there with you. And it's kind of known now that Joe Burrow is not a tight end lover. He does
No,
not love throwing to the tight ends.
no. Now, I mean, this does depend on. There's been apparently T Higgins has requested a trade,
That's true.
so
So you might have to split out Gesicki a little more and
you
use him
know,
in the receiving game.
yeah. There's a lot of factors. I mean, they also can get somebody in the draft, so
True.
we don't really know for sure how that's going to play out, but I don't see him having an uptick in value really.
No, I don't think he could be anything more than like a tight end three,
Yeah,
maybe like a very low end tight end two if things shake out the right way.
yeah.
All right, the Browns, their big move was actually not a signing; it was a trade for Jerry Jeudy from the Broncos. They also signed Jameis Winston, who, I mean, if patterns repeat themselves, will get some playing time this year. Um, and then they re-signed Zadarius Smith, which I really like because I like Zadarius Smith a lot. But what do you think about Jeudy?
Um, uh, hmm. For Judy himself, in terms of fantasy, I was hoping for a better landing spot. I mean, I don't own any shares, but like
Right.
I did kind of look at him because he's 25, I think. He's still fairly young.
Yeah, he might be
Um,
younger than that. He might be 23,
he's
24.
20, he's 24 or 25,
Yeah, he
I
probably is
think.
25.
But yeah, I was hoping for a better landing spot. The Browns they're crowded. The
Yeah.
Browns receiving core is pretty crowded. They've also got Njoku. So
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how much work he's going to get unless Deshaun Watson steps up like to his previous self,
Yeah.
which we talked about last episode. But even then, it's a lot of mouths to feed in the offense,
That's the
and
thing.
they like to run the ball also. So
Yeah. Very
I mean,
much.
I don't know that his value really changes from Denver. Um, I don't know. It
Yeah.
better QB situation, I will say, even though Deshaun Watson hasn't looked good. It's better
It's
than what he's had the last couple years in Denver, man.
yeah. And I mean, who knows what he would have had this year. Um,
Yeah.
anyway, speaking of Denver, next team on the list is the Steelers. And this one, what it so I don't know what you've seen on social media, but I've seen everybody like celebrating kind of like they did with the Broncos when they signed Russell Wilson or traded for Russell Wilson. And I'm like ESPN gave it an A grade. I'm like, okay, like sure you got him on good value, so like the contract is an A, but the player that's got to drag you down in the B's at most. Like you can't be higher than a B plus for me because look at the way the dude has played the last at least 2 years ago for sure. Last year, yeah, he was better, but was he
Yeah.
really good enough to be an A signing in free agency? I don't think so.
No. And like I mean, I guess it's a decent little rental because isn't it just a 1 year deal?
Hmm.
I mean, I guess it's okay, but the past 2 years, it doesn't look good for the Steelers based on the past 2 years.
No, I still
I
like
don't,
it better than Pickett and
yeah,
Rudolph, but
yeah. I mean, you've got a guy that's been there before. He's
yeah,
won Super Bowls, so it's like, I mean, at least you get a guy like that, but at the same time, he's 35 and last 2 years has been like a problem, which I never would have thought I would say about Russell Wilson, like
no, he's become a
first
diva,
10 years of his
man.
career.
He's become a diva.
Yeah, he uh, is an issue. So I don't know how that's gonna work out. I see George Pickens potentially getting into an argument with him on the sideline.
Maybe. I hope they don't get in too many, man. I don't know. I mean, I'd be fine if George Pickens wasn't that good for one more year. Actually, I'm trying to suck one more time before I. But in the OD league, I could use Pickens as a flex. So I don't know. I
Torn.
hope for the best for Pickens at all times. So I'm definitely pulling for him. One
Yeah.
more Steelers move that might surprise you is they signed Patrick Queen, middle linebacker, who I
Ooh.
believe you own in the OD league. Is that correct? Or do you not own him anymore?
I don't think I do.
Oh, I thought you, for some
I
reason,
don't know.
I
I
thought you
can't
drafted him.
remember.
I thought you drafted him for some reason.
I think I did, but I don't know if
You
I
might have
still have
dropped
him.
him. Yeah.
I either dropped him or traded him at some point. I'm going to see
Okay.
now.
He's on Cade's team.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah, you dropped him and Cade picked him up.
Yeah. It was probably one of those weeks where like I had to pick up somebody else.
Right.
I've had
Yeah.
some bad injury history in that league, so
Yeah. Dude, Mike Gesicki is the number one trending player in the sleeper app right now. You got to be kidding me.
people just buy the hype on him being on the Bengals. I like you said, Joe Burrow does not involve the tight end that much.
No,
He
he
doesn't
doesn't.
love throwing to the tight end.
And I learned that lesson hard last year because I got a couple of decent trade offers for Irv Smith, and I should have freaking taken them because I should have known that Joe Burrow was not going to suddenly start throwing to a tight end just because Irv Smith has some talent.
Yeah,
Um,
and like before the Gesicki signing, people had been saying like Brock Bowers in Cincinnati, and I was like, ooh, it sounds good in theory,
I don't like that. I don't like it at
but
all.
Burrow does not throw to tight ends, and if T Higgins does stay, and you got Chase, now they've signed Gesicki, it's like, ugh, I don't know, it's a lot of
Yeah,
mouse feed.
it is. It is. That would make me not very happy for Brock's fantasy production. That's for sure.
Yeah,
All right. I got the Texans. They've made a lot of moves. Um, so I'm just gonna go over a couple of the major ones. They signed Daniil Hunter, which I think is a huge signing. I love Daniil Hunter.
yeah,
I own him in the OD league, and oh my God, the dude can just. I mean,
dude,
it's
that's a
just any given week, he's good for two, three, four sacks. Like he's still so
oh
good.
man,
Joe Mixon, who I think is that's a fine signing. We talked about them potentially getting Saquon, like you go Joe Mixon, or sorry, Saquon, Joe Mixon. Like it's
yeah,
but it's not a bad signing. He's definitely better than Damian Pierce.
yeah,
Um, and then the other one that I wanted to talk about just because they stole him from the Falcons is Jeff Okuda, who had a decent year with the
mm,
Falcons last year, and he's gone, signed with the Texans.
dang,
I don't guess the Falcons really wanted him that bad because he only signed for 1 year, 4 million, up
mm,
to 6 million in bonuses, which isn't it's not a big contract for a corner.
no, that's fairly
So
cheap.
exactly. So I guess the Falcons just didn't really want him back. Um, I don't maybe I overhyped him. Maybe he didn't have a very good season with the Falcons. Because I'm not going to sit here and tell you I watched all 17 games, but from what I did watch, he seemed like he played pretty well.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I feel like that's a decent signing though
Yeah.
for them. I do love them going and getting a running back, which we figured they would.
Yeah.
That kind of helps my prediction potentially.
Yeah, for sure.
Even if it is Joe Mixon, I like Joe Mixon. Okay, I think he'll be pretty good. I think he'll work
Yeah,
pretty well in that offense.
I think he'll be fine. I think he's getting older too. I mean, he's what,
Yeah.
28, 29?
Well, see, that's the thing. A lot of people think he's older than he is. He's 27.
Oh, oh,
He
okay.
came out of college really early.
That's
He came
right.
out of college at 20.
That's true.
So, um, he's just 27. Well, I say just 27. That's not super young or anything, but
No, but it's
he's
not, I mean, it's not old either though. I
yeah,
mean,
he's
it's
still, you know,
tail end of the
through
prime for most
yeah.
players.
Yeah, he's still I think he still could be in his prime for at least this year, maybe the next year. I think they signed him 2 years, so
Yeah.
I think that's a great rental for them to be like, hey, we made the playoffs and won the first round. Like, let's sign a couple of these. That they went out and got some people. I like that.
Oh,
That's some
yeah.
contending moves.
Yeah, they've
That's
been
some
very aggressive.
contending moves. And I mean they needed to be because they
Yeah.
already have a really good squad and they make a couple moves like that, they're in the mix for sure.
Yeah. No, and I mean, like you said, they made a lot of moves. I mean, that wasn't the only corner. They actually signed four corners. They signed Desmond King, Lonnie Johnson, and Mike Ford too, which Desmond King was already there, but they re-signed him. So I mean, they signed Aziz Al-Shaair, outside linebacker, rush edge guy, really. Danico Autry, who's an interior defensive lineman, very good player. Re-signed Dalton Schultz, fine, I like that.
Hmm.
Re-signed Eric Murray too, and Eric Murray has been pretty good for them. So I like the Texans offseason so far. Just got to see what they do on draft day.
Yeah.
Which are they? They're like low on picks though, aren't they? From
Uh
the Will Anderson trade, or at least low on early picks.
yeah, I'm not entirely sure, but I feel like they don't have as many as they have been having. But I mean, I think they're in a position to not have a lot of picks. They're really young.
Yeah, I agree.
Um,
I'm right there with
have a
you.
lot of cap space to go sign the veterans that they're doing now. So I think they're in a really good spot
Yeah,
in the rebuild.
I agree. All right, next team is the Jacksonville Jaguars. They are another team that has been loud in free agency. Mac Jones, Gabe Davis, Devin Duvernay, Ronald Darby, who I didn't even know was still playing football.
I
Uh,
didn't either.
and Darnell Savage, who I do like. I do like Darnell Savage. But yeah, the big ones are, I guess the big one is Gabe Davis. They signed him to a 3 year, $39 million deal. And then uh, people are putting so much stock in Mac Jones because I don't know, I guess because he's Mac Jones. Obviously, not saying he's going to take Trevor's spot or anything, but I don't know. I think people are saying like he's going to already be the best backup quarterback in the league and stuff. I'm like, oh, let's slow down now. It has not looked very good. Let's be real. He was benched by a terrible team last year.
Yeah.
So let's back it up on the Mac Jones best backup in the league talk. Um, but yeah, Gabe Davis, I like that signing for them. I think he's a good replacement for Calvin Ridley. I don't think he's going to be able to do the things Calvin Ridley can do, but they underutilized Calvin last year anyways, so I don't think it's going to like be a detriment to them. Tell you who can do some of the things that Calvin Ridley can do though on a much smaller scale is Devin Duvernay. I think he is going to be surprisingly a sneaky flex option for them this year.
Yeah, I can see that too. Good special teams player too. So
Yep.
it's always a factor and always good that he can get on the field in multiple ways. I think Gabe Davis gives them a big body
Mhm.
for Trevor to throw to.
Yep.
Um, who else do they have at receiver?
They have
I'm blanking.
I'm blanking on them too.
Oh, Christian Kirk.
Yeah, that's the big name I was thinking of. I was
They
like,
have
I know there's a guy there.
they have Christian Kirk. They use Zay Jones a little bit, but I think Gabe Davis kind of slots in as a better version of Zay Jones,
Yeah, I agree.
essentially.
Yeah.
So Zay Jones may kind of, which I think he was hurt a lot last year. He'll probably fall.
Feels
to the
like he's a
wayside.
guy that's had a lot of injuries throughout his career. Maybe I'm
Yep,
mistaken there, but I feel like he has.
he has. He has, and it's like he may have been better. It's kind of like sad, I guess. You see
Yeah,
like the potential, but yeah, he just had bad luck with injuries.
yeah,
Um, yeah, I think Gabe Davis will be good signing in Jacksonville. I think it ups his value because he kind of gains a spot on the depth chart. Like now he's second option
right.
instead of third.
Yeah,
Um, after the bit, I mean, last year Kincaid was used a lot,
yeah.
so he
He
was kind of
wasn't.
sliding down.
He's not a true second option. That's for sure.
No,
So before we get into the next team, I wanted to just kind of point out the amount of guys that have switched to in division rivals. I feel like that's
yeah,
been crazy this year. And there's one on this next team from the last team that we just talked about, excuse me. And that's Calvin Ridley on the Tennessee Titans, who are another team who have been very aggressive so far. They've got Calvin Ridley. They signed Mason Rudolph, who I think is a good backup quarterback signing for them. Tony Pollard, great signing for them. Lloyd Cushenberry is a very good center. Great signing for them. Kenneth Murray, who has kind of been up and down since his career started, but I think he's a nice depth linebacker for them inside. And then Chidobe Awuzie, who I think they actually, I think he like disproved that pronunciation of his name. I think you're supposed to pronounce it a different way, but I can't remember it. So I'm still just going to call him Chidobe Awuzie. Uh, Cornerback, he signed a 3-year, $36 million deal too, which is a really nice signing for them. So I like the moves that the Titans have made so far.
yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's interesting because I figured they would be sort of in a rebuild mode, but they're like still kind of contending. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
they're
don't.
like retooling almost instead of
Yeah, I think they're
rebuilding.
just trying to retool,
Yeah.
which can work. We'll see. Still got Will Levis
Yeah.
at the helm. Which I guess is Tannehill still there?
Think so. I think so. I think he
So
has
we'll
a
see
year or
what
two left.
happens. I'll see what happens.
Yeah. No, I
Um,
mean, we will see. All I know one thing, anyone who owns Traylon Burks cannot be happy to hear that Calvin Ridley signed there. And I'm looking at somebody who I know
oh my
owns
God.
Traylon Burks.
Dude. Yeah, that's
That
very
sucks, man.
bad. Very
That
bad news.
sucks.
I really bought into the hype on Traylon Burks.
I know.
And from now on I will be looking a little further into their ethics.
Yep.
This dude, he's got to be like just entirely lazy. He also is kind of unlucky with injuries, I will say that, but like
That's true.
he wasn't getting the looks before, and everybody just acts like he is the laziest dude of all time. Um,
Yeah.
has the size and talent, and does not seem to care. So,
No.
I mean, I might as well hold him at this point. We'll see what happens, but he is kind of a cut candidate, honestly, in Road to
Hey,
Glory.
I mean, I couldn't fully blame you if you did it, man. I mean, I might be the guy that goes and picks him up if you did it, but
Yeah,
not out of confidence. That's for sure. That's just because, you know, I'm in
you
a
never know.
let's lose situation right now.
Yeah,
Um, so next couple teams didn't really make major moves. Broncos, their best signing was Will Lutz. I mean, they signed Brandon Jones, safety, who's okay, but I seriously think their best player that they have signed was Will Lutz. So I don't think we need to talk about them. The Chiefs, speaking of Irv Smith from earlier, did sign Irv Smith. That's the only, it might be the only deal they've made so far. Matt Araiza, a punter, so who cares about that? And then the Raiders, they signed Christian Wilkins, who I do like. I love that signing for them. And then they signed Gardner Minshew, who is, I mean, I think he's going to be just fine there. He might even win the starting job for a little while. So we'll see what happens there. But again, nothing major. And then the Chargers too. I mean, the AFC West has not really done much because all they did was sign Will Disley and Gus Edwards. So
yeah.
good
I
depth
think that all
signings.
those teams are looking at the draft or maybe they're in trade talks, but that's about it. I mean, all those teams still have some sort of need.
Yeah,
So I mean, I guess every team does, but like
for sure.
they, I don't know. I guess they're looking for the draft. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Cowboys, nothing. Literally nothing. They re-signed their long snapper. That's all that's listed.
Another
The
team that's looking towards the draft.
yeah. The
They've got to get a running
Giants.
back.
Oh yeah, no, I don't know what they're gonna do, dude. Is Rico Dowdle gonna run out there week one and
No,
start for them?
he's not.
No
He's
shot.
definitely not.
No
So
shot.
I don't know what they're gonna do.
Le'Veon Bell.
Yeah, Le'Veon Bell, Leonard Fournette.
Didn't Le'Veon Bell say like this season that he wanted to come back?
Yes, he did. He's
He's
an
pretty
idiot.
young. He's pretty young.
Yeah,
I would take it. I mean, why not take a chance on a 94-year-old running back?
yeah, that should end well.
Yep. The Giants have made some big-ish moves. They made one huge trade for one of the most underrated players in the league. So they signed Devin Singletary, Drew Lock, Isaiah McKenzie, and a couple of offensive linemen. John Runyon's a really good offensive guard who they signed. I like that signing. But the big move, they traded for Brian Burns, if you didn't see that, from the
Oh, I
Panthers.
did not see that.
I love that for them. And
Yeah,
it was for a 2024 second and fifth round pick. So I don't think, I mean, for one of the top, I want to be careful here because I'm not trying to like be blasphemous, but I would say borderline top five pass rushers in the NFL right now.
he's
Um,
good.
that's it's great trade value. I think the Giants, that sneakily might have been one of the best moves that this management regime has made.
Yeah, yeah, that's a very good trade. Um, Brian Burns, I feel like is underrated. I feel like
Yeah,
people don't talk about him enough. He's really, really good.
I know.
I feel good about the Singletary signing. Maybe because I'm biased because I own Singletary.
Yeah,
I
I
feel
like
like
Devin Singletary.
obviously he's not Saquon.
No, of
We
course
know
not.
we know that,
Yeah,
but I feel like he is underrated. He's a little smaller, like in terms of height, but I mean he's a bowling ball really,
yeah,
and is really good catching passes out of the backfield, um, which people don't really talk about. So, and I thought maybe they were signing him like to be the backup or something. They're going to get another guy, but I mean the way the deal looks and the way everybody else has went somewhere else, I feel like he's their guy now.
yeah, he could be.
I don't know. It made me feel good, for
Yeah,
fantasy at least.
and you know he was. I mean, he was. I guess you have to be careful with saying true number one because when I say true number one, some people are going to think I'm saying like 30 carries a game. But
Yeah.
he was the true number one in Buffalo for at least
Yeah.
two, 3 seasons. He was the true
Yeah.
number one. Like they had multiple backup options that would give him a breather every now and then, but he was the guy
Yeah. I
for
mean,
them.
he was the starter for sure, and it wasn't really much of a committee. They run
Exactly.
a couple guys out there, but I mean, he got the bulk of the work there.
Yeah.
And then with the Texans, he was coming in to be the backup and pretty much won the starting
Won the
job
starting
by the end of
job.
the year
Exactly. Yep.
and hauled out. So
I
I like
like
the signing.
Singletary. Yeah, I do too. I do too. I like Singletary. So the next team we've got is the Eagles, and obviously the big one. Um, they did sign how do you pronounce it? Albert Okwa Okwegbenum? Okwegbenum?
I don't
You
know.
know,
I just call him Alberto.
yeah, Alberto, you know the guy I'm talking about. They signed
Yeah.
him to an extension, and I know a lot of people were hyping him up when he was with the Broncos. So I don't know if he'll do anything for them, but they re-signed him and Landon Dickerson, Brandon Graham. And they had a lot of re-signings, Julian Aquara, CJ Gardner Johnson. But of course, the big one is Saquon Barkley signing a 3-year, $38 million contract.
Yeah. That's the biggest news of all free agency, I feel like.
Yeah.
And the Eagles just keep adding more and more talent.
I know. They just
Um,
get better and better.
that's going to be a crazy combo. Hurts and Saquon.
I think it helps my having them down as a win for the Super
Yeah,
Bowl contenders.
it definitely does. It definitely does. That's going to be a crazy offense, and then they've already got a really good defense. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's going to be hard to run through them.
Yeah. I totally agree. Okay, so the next team that I've got on the list is the Washington Commanders. And just like a team I mentioned earlier, they went out and signed a quarterback that has a really good reputation in the league. God dang it, I couldn't hold it together. I was going to say a guy that a lot of Falcons fans are hold near and dear to their heart as the greatest passer in Atlanta history. That would be one Marcus Mariota. Um, 1 year,
uh,
6 million up to 10 million with incentives. I don't know what kind of incentives you're giving a backup quarterback, but I guess it's like if you have to play, you need to do this. I
or
guess
teaching Drake May how to throw the
that
football.
that's a good
I
point.
don't know.
That's a good point. Maybe it's like if our rookie looks this good by the end of the year, we'll throw you an extra 4 million.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, I don't know how that's going to work either, other than that, because they're
not to,
drafting a quarterback.
yeah, for sure. Not to spend not to spend too long on Marcus Mariota. The big signing that they had outside of Tyler Biadasz, I think is how you pronounce it. Dude, these offensive linemen, you like never hear their names called, so you don't. It's hard to remember how to pronounce them. But he's a
Yeah, I
really good
know.
signing at center. I like Zach Ertz, decent signing for them. But Austin Eckler is officially a Washington Commander, and that's like I think Cade, shout out to our buddy Cade in the Road to Glory League, used like a puking emoji when he announced
Yeah,
that to the group. And
yeah.
like, I like totally agree. Like, that's just like, like why
Uh,
Washington? Why would you go there?
I don't know, dude, and that doesn't help his value. He's coming into a bad team, very bad team.
Yeah,
Not that, I mean, the Chargers weren't great either, but like,
they were better than the
there's no
Commanders.
other weapons there.
Yeah, they got
I mean,
nothing.
like, the offense is just going to be pretty bad, I think. Um, and I mean, I hope it's not because I have Jahan Dotson in 2 leagues, so
Yeah,
I hope he breaks out a little bit. They do have Cliff Kingsbury as their OC,
it's true.
so maybe he can dial something up. But even so, even if the offense is better than we think, Eckler and Brian Robinson are going to compete, and
100%.
Eckler's declining and about to be 30, I think. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't love that for fantasy for sure, and it kind of is puzzling the signing anyway. I don't know. I mean, they did get rid of Gibson, so I guess he's like their Gibson replacement. I don't know.
Upgraded version of Gibson, I guess, is what they were
Yeah,
thinking. But I don't know. I don't love it. I don't love it for either side. I mean, I guess I like it for the Commanders. Like you said, he's a talented-ish player, and he replaces Gibson. But I mean, what were you doing with Antonio Gibson that was so special that you felt like
yeah,
you needed to replace that? Like,
exactly.
go a different direction is more what I would be thinking. But they did make some defensive signings though. They signed Clelin Ferrell, they signed Dorrance Armstrong, Frankie Louvu, Bobby Wagner, and Jeremy
Mm.
Chin. So I mean I like Louvu a lot. I think he's been really underrated the last 2 years on the edge. Bobby Wagner is he's still pretty damn good for how old he is.
I was about to
Uh,
say, how old is that dude?
he's very old. He's got to be like 33, 34 minimum.
Yeah.
He might be older than that. I know he's old. He's up there. And then Jeremy Chin. I actually really like Jeremy Chin. I don't know. I don't know if the Panthers have really known how to use him because he's like a big safety, small linebacker, like that
Yeah.
hybrid Isaiah Simmons type role. And you really need a good defensive coordinator to utilize a guy like that. But
Yeah.
he's made plays when he's been on the field for the Panthers. So I mean, I like Jeremy Chin. You just have to use him the right way, like I said.
Yeah. And I mean, they got Dan Quinn as a head coach now, right?
Yeah, I think
Okay.
so. I
Yeah.
think that's right.
So he got a defensive mind. I feel like he's a pretty good defensive coordinator. People hate on him when he was with the Falcons.
Yeah,
I still think he's a good defensive coordinator. I mean,
I think so. I think he's
people
proven
act
that.
like, yeah, well, people act like with the Seattle defense that it wasn't him, it was the players. And to a degree, yeah, but
Sure.
everywhere else he's been has had a good defense. So, I mean,
I was about to say, like, look at the
like,
Cowboys, man. I mean, that's
yeah,
been one of the best defenses in the NFL
yeah.
since he's been there.
And I mean, they have talent too, but like, it's not, definitely not the Seattle
Mhm.
defense talent, and they're still
No,
freaking awesome. So it's like,
100%.
I don't know. I feel
Yeah,
like he'll do okay, but they got to get some. They have a good coaching staff on paper. It's like, what are they gonna do about the players?
yeah.
Is what I'm wondering.
No, I'm right there with you on that. I mean, like I said, they signed a bunch of vets, man, like Eckler, Ertz, Biadasz, Farrell is honestly a veteran at this point. Lubu's a little older, Wagner. I mean, that's a lot of vets. So
Yeah,
I guess they're going for it, at least a playoff spot. That's what seems like that's what they're chasing, but we'll see with Sam Howell or whoever they draft at the helm, if that's a
yeah,
possibility. Next team is the Bears. They signed two players that I really like that I hate. I'm gonna hate watching. I mean, I'm not gonna watch the Bears much this year, but when I do watch them, I'm gonna hate watching these two players lose, and that's DeAndre Swift, DGD, and Kevin Byard, who I think I've pretty much made it known that he's probably like my favorite safety in the league right now. I like Kevin Byard a lot.
yeah,
So like I said, hate it for those two players, but I mean, they're two really good players that I like a lot. So it's good signings for the Bears.
yeah. I think Swift will be pretty good in that offense, though. I mean, I think they're gonna use him for
Yeah,
sure. It's
yeah,
just a matter of him staying healthy. But I think it's good
yeah.
signings for them, for the
I agree.
Bears.
I agree.
Um,
Then not too much to say there. I mean, I like I said, I like Kevin Byard a lot. He is getting a little older though, so timetable doesn't exactly work out for him to finish his career very successfully. But he got paid, so good for him. I'm
yeah,
happy for Kevin Byard. Um, Next team is the Lions. They didn't need to do much in free agency. They were still pretty aggressive anyway. They went out and got Marcus Davenport. Um, and a couple of like depth corners, including Emmanuel Mosley, who was like a really highly touted prospect out of Ole Miss. It kind of turned out. I think he's out of Ole Miss. You know, I know he was like a little bit overhyped coming out of college, but he's still a decent depth option. But the big acquisition for them at corner was Carlton Davis, who I think has been pretty good for the Buccaneers for the
yeah,
last couple of years, and I think that's a good trade for them. I
yeah.
like
I think
Carlton
that
Davis.
even builds their defense even further.
Yeah.
Um, which I mean, I love their defense, honestly,
Yeah.
where it's at.
And they added Marcus Davenport too. This
Yeah,
is a sneaky good edge.
yeah. Him and Aiden Hutchinson
That's gonna be
can
nice,
match it.
man. That's gonna be nice.
It's a
That's
good combo
scary.
there.
That's
Uh,
scary.
so the Lions making a little push there where I think they can go win it. Um, maybe
They
it'll
could
work.
they could potentially
The
win it
Texans
all.
and the Lions going for it,
They
like I
they
thought.
are. I like it, man. I really like it. I'm glad that you were right about that because I feels like a lot less teams now are okay with mediocrity in the NFL,
Yeah,
which is strange because it feels like, and maybe this is just because I've just been a lot more focused on the NBA. Maybe it's always been this way, but I feel like in the NBA there are a lot of teams who do accept mediocrity, which is just like odd to see because I feel like in the NFL, like every team at unless it's just like a complete crapshoot is trying to win. Like it's
yeah,
you see these rebuilding teams that are signing like 30-year-old guys to start for them, and you're like, why are you doing that? Well, it's because every team in the NFL really wants to win. Like it's a
yeah,
very, very competitive league. I think that's one of the strongest aspects about the NFL is how competitive it is.
yeah. I agree. That yeah, you're right. I've really never thought about it that much, but yeah, there is a lot of just like mid teams in other sports. You're just like,
Yeah, and
they're
they're
not
okay.
gonna go get anybody.
They're okay with it. Like Chicago Bulls, Atlanta Hawks. What are we doing?
Yeah,
What are we
yeah,
doing?
yeah. They love being mediocre.
They do. They're fine with it. I don't get it. But anyways, back to the NFL. The Packers are next. Again, two signings. Uh I do actually love the landing spot for these two guys though, because the Packers are actually a really good football team.
Yeah.
Xavier McKinney, who I'm not sure if you're really familiar with Xavier McKinney, but
Oh
he's
yeah.
a oh
Yeah, he was on
yes.
my team.
That's right. You had Xavier McKinney.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Traded him.
right. That's right. That's right. Yeah, so they signed Xavier McKinney to a 4-year deal. I like that a lot. I think Xavier
Yeah.
McKinney is really good. And then they signed Josh Jacobs, who I absolutely love. I still think Josh Jacobs has got it. I think the Raiders made him look a lot worse than he was last year. I think he's going to bounce back to possibly even RB5 or better this year.
Yeah. I think he could be top 5 running back with
Yeah.
the Packers. I mean, they're going to use him as much as they can. AJ Dillon's gone too.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. Did they sign anybody else, or are they just going to like
Not at running back, no.
roll it? Yeah, he may be like the workhorse guy, which Packers don't run. I mean, they're not like the Titans with Henry. They're not going to
Yeah.
run him like 35 times or anything, but I mean, he's going to get a lot of work, I think, and he has a pretty good shot at being top 5 running back again, fantasy. And just for the Packers in general, that's a good signing for them. I mean,
I
they
think
don't
it's
they
great.
don't fall off at all from where they were with Aaron Jones. Could
Mm-mm.
even really gain some just because Aaron Jones is older
Yeah.
and had some hamstring issues last year. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's as good or better for them.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I just love Josh Jacobs too, dude. Like he is a hard worker. Like, yeah, he started talking a little bit to the media towards the end of his Raiders tenure, but that's because he
Yeah,
was sick of that shit. Like he was ready to get
yeah,
out of there. So I
yeah,
can't really fully blame him for that. Other than that, he doesn't like cause rifts in the locker room or anything. I called him the best running back in the NFL based off of 2 years ago, and I think that was a fair assessment based on that year. So I love Josh Jacobs, but not to go away from NFL again. But I just got a report on my phone that Dylan Cease has just been traded to the Padres, which
hmm,
F the Padres.
yeah,
Not happy to see them get one of the best pitchers in the MLB at such a young age.
yep.
Uh,
That's not good.
but it's news, big news. So I figured I'd say something about it because I saw it pop
Yeah.
up on my phone.
Breaking news.
Yeah, that's right. All right. Back to the NFL again. We are almost done here, folks. Hold on with us just for a few more minutes on this free agency thing. The Minnesota Vikings have done nothing too crazy. They got Aaron Jones, who I think is like a signing.
Yeah,
Not super impressed with that. I do think, since I said the same thing for Joe Mixon earlier, I will say I think Joe Mixon's a better signing than Aaron Jones at this point.
yeah, I agree.
Um, Jonathan Greenard, nice defensive edge. Andrew Van Ginkel, who was sneaky good with the Dolphins last year. And Blake Cashman, who has been a really good inside linebacker. So the Vikings are definitely trying to compete, it looks like.
Yeah, and you're missing the greatest signing of all, Sam Darnold.
It's true. Another quarterback that's known for success. Guy that has been so close to carrying teams to
Yeah,
the Super Bowl, but just had the ball didn't
I
bounce his
mean,
way a few times.
I
Saw
mean,
ghosts against the Patriots.
all jokes aside, though, is he going to be the starter there?
I mean, he very well could be. He
I think he
very
could be a
well could be.
little 1 year rental for him.
Who
It
else do
could
they
work
have?
out.
Do they still have Kellen Mond?
I don't know.
He had a really good run.
um, who's the guy that played like 1 week last year?
They have Josh Dobbs, I think. Do they still have Josh Dobbs?
Yeah, I think they still have him, but I mean, he definitely fell off his
Was
The
it
Josh Dobbs thing from last year was literally Jeremy Lin in the NFL.
yeah, yeah,
It
pretty
was
much.
just like 4 weeks of like, oh my God, the Pastronaut. And then he just
Yeah.
fell off a
Dobbs
cliff.
sanity. Dobbs
Yeah,
sanity.
literally. That's literally what it
Um,
was.
is Nick Mullins, is that the guy that you were talking
Yeah,
about?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. I guess he's still there.
It's
I don't
gotta be.
know. I
It's
mean,
gotta be Darnold, bro. It's
it's
gotta
got to
be.
be Darnold. I don't think they go sign him otherwise, but
Yeah.
um, I mean, it could work out okay
They could be all right.
fantasy wise.
Yeah.
He's got weapons to throw to.
100% between
So,
Addison
um,
and Jefferson and then Jones out of the
Hawkinson,
backfield, Hawkinson. Yeah, I mean
yeah.
that's
I mean,
shit. Can't get
if he
much
can't
better than
succeed
that.
with that, yeah, if he can't succeed with that, then it is definitely him.
Yep.
And not other situations he's been in.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
we're gonna
Yep.
see. I did pick him up in the Road to Glory league.
Yeah.
I love having three quarterbacks. So I've had two the last like year, and then it always happens to me. I'll have both of my quarterbacks have the same bye week, like
Yeah.
every single time. I just carry two, so
Yeah.
inevitably I have to pick up a guy anyway. So I'm like, I'm gonna pick him up.
Yep. Yep. All right. NFC South. NFC South is where we're moving now, and we're first up is the Falcons. So obviously, biggest one, Liam McCullough, our long snapper, re-signed. No, but kind of going from like least important, I guess, to most important. We did pick up Charlie Werner, who I really like,
Hmm.
really good backup blocking
Yeah,
tight end, also a
very good
DGP.
blocker.
Yeah, that's why I like it.
Yep. Shout out Raven County.
Yep. Shout out Raven County. Shout out to Coach Hannigan and Coach Hodges for putting me on him one on one in my first ever game playing man to man defense. Literally, first time I ever played man to man defense in my life was against Charlie Werner. So that
Yeah,
was fun.
dude,
That was,
Me and Cody Robinson, old Lewis would watch Charlie Warner highlights in 10th grade English.
dude was crazy, bro.
He was so good.
That dude was insane. And then Darnell Mooney, who I actually really like as a depth
Yeah,
receiver. Like I think that's a great signing, and they got him on
yeah,
a kind of. I don't know if I would call it a steal, but in the receiver market we have now, it kind of is a steal at 13 million a year for 3 years because I think if we'd
yeah,
have signed him to a 1 year deal and he popped off as a true top end wide receiver three, low end wide receiver two, I think he would have gotten paid a lot more in free agency next year. So potentially could be a bargain, like a very good steal for us in free agency.
hmm,
And I've always just liked Darnell Mooney a lot, anyways. But Kirk Cousins obviously is the actual big one, and
yeah,
we talked about it the other day over text message. But I like Kirk, okay, and I think if this were a 2 year deal, even at 45 million average per year, I'm cool with that. But
yeah,
4 years,
yeah.
what?
I don't love the 4 years, man. That's too long.
It's too much. It's too
That's too
much.
long
With no
for him.
options, I don't know if we can save money by cutting him later in the contract. Maybe we can, but
Yeah,
ooh,
I I don't love it. I don't love it.
mm,
For the years, I love it. I love it for the fact that the Falcons needed a quarterback and they finally went and made a move.
yeah,
For years, the Falcons have had needs and they would never address them and just draft whoever edge rusher was from an ACC school or
yeah,
something. Like they would just draft whatever
yeah,
and they would suck. So
yeah.
like, I'm glad they went and got a move. I just don't love the 4 years. Um, but with that being said, with that signing, they kind of pop into contender status, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I mean,
Uh,
I think they've definitely got to be the favorite. Well, I don't know. The Bucks had a decent year, but they're probably pretty close to being the favorite in the South.
yeah, yeah, and I mean, it's basically like Kirk has the weapons he had in Minnesota, essentially. I mean, you got Drake London. I'm not comparing. Obviously, we're not comparing
Well, yeah,
Drake London to, but he's got a good young receiver,
true
big
wide
body.
receiver one.
He's got a good receiving tight end. He's
Yep,
got a pretty good little depth option there with Mooney
yep,
to throw to also, and then he's got Bijan Robinson to throw to, and coming out of the
exactly.
backfield. Um, I mean, in a fairly decent O line. I
Yeah,
think. I think the O line. I feel like the O line looked bad because Ritter was bad
I
in a way.
definitely agree.
So
Quarterbacks can make their O lines look a lot
yeah.
worse.
So I mean, I love it for the next 2 years. It remains to be seen how it'll be in years 3 and 4 of that contract. Maybe it'll be okay. We'll see.
Yeah, TBD on that one.
Yeah.
Panthers didn't do too much in free agency, but they did make a pretty big trade. I will shout out Ashawn Robinson and Josie Jewell because I like those two signings on defense. But Deontay
Hmm.
Johnson, they just traded for Deontay Johnson,
Yeah.
and I mean, I love that for George Pickens. I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know how I really feel about it for the Panthers. I don't think Deontay Johnson is as good as a lot of people think he is. I think he's a very overrated receiver who has had too many targets over the last few years. It's been great for him for fantasy, but now he's in a much worse offense even than the Steelers, which is saying a lot because the Steelers have not had a good offense either.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't know, dude. He could come in there and just be a target hog for Bryce Young now, so maybe his fantasy production won't drop off.
Yeah, he may end up having a season like he did was it Big Ben's last year when he just
Was like one
got
of the
like
best
every
receivers
target.
in fantasy. Yeah.
Oh, he just got like every target like 2 yards down.
Yep.
I mean, it was like the shortest routes possible, but he had a million targets. So I mean,
Exactly.
he may have that role with Bryce Young. I don't know.
He very well could.
We'll
He very
see.
well could. Saints didn't do anything really. They signed Willie Gay, but the other two signings were two re-signings: Tyrann Mathieu and Demario Davis. Buccaneers, same thing. Haven't done too much. Some good re-signings. They franchise tagged Antoine Winfield, which is, I mean, if they let Antoine Winfield go for any reason, they're just stupid. I
Yeah,
actually really like them re-signing Baker. 3
yeah, I did
years,
too.
100 million. I think that's pretty fair compared for the way that he played last year. I think that's a pretty fair contract. So I like the Baker signing.
Yeah, I like that they brought back the entire offense.
Yeah,
They're gonna have the same offense they had last year, which I feel like was fairly good.
yeah,
Um, I'm glad Mike Evans didn't leave. I feel like he should retire Buccaneer.
that would have been so weird seeing him in a different
Yeah,
uniform.
he's Buccaneer for life, in my opinion. I hope he doesn't leave ever.
And probably, I mean, I don't know if it's much of an argument. I'd have to re-look it up. I know Vincent Jackson played there and he was pretty good, but I mean, Mike Evans is probably the greatest receiver in Bucks history, right? I mean,
I mean, I'll say it confidently.
I think
He's
that's
the
he
greatest
probably
Buccaneers
has
receiver.
distanced himself from the guy in second
I
by a
mean,
margin, if I had to
the
guess.
dude's an automatic 1,000 yard season.
Yep. It literally every year of his career.
He has 1,000 yard season every year.
Yep.
Like, I think he's probably first. He could be first ballot Hall of Famer.
He very well could be. He'll get
Um,
in, he'll get in no matter what, for
yeah,
sure.
but I mean, I think he's. I would vote him in. The dude is a machine.
Yeah, 100%. One of
Um,
the most underrated players in the NFL for a long time now.
yeah, pretty much every year.
Yep. Yep. All right. NFC West, and I believe this is it. Yep, NFC West. The Arizona Cardinals, nothing too crazy. Mac Wilson, Justin Jones, another Bucks corner, Sean Murphy Bunting, who turned out was not as good as I really thought he was after watching more tape. He gets burnt a lot. He's very
Yeah,
aggressive. Um, so I'm not super impressed there. The Rams, similar in terms of like big names. They didn't really sign any big names. They signed Jonah Jackson, who's a pretty good guard, and then they re-signed Darius Williams, who I like. So good moves there. 49ers signed Leonard Floyd. I do like that.
yeah.
But the NFC West didn't really make a whole lot of noise because the Seahawks didn't do much either. They re-signed Leonard Williams, who they traded for.
Mhm.
I think they traded for him. Maybe they signed him in free agency. And then that's about it. I mean, they re-signed Noah Fant. So
Yeah,
that pretty much concludes the NFL free agency. I know it was a lot, but man, I mean, a lot of moves have happened. Like I thought we were going
I
to be
know.
skipping over more teams than we did, but every
Well,
team has made some kind of move.
yeah, and I mean, I feel like this has been as active as it's been in a while.
Yeah.
Um, Especially just right off the rip like this.
Yeah.
So it was a lot to cover, but it was necessary. There's a lot of moves going on this year. It's going to be weird to see like Aaron Jones in a Vikings jersey.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, just stuff like that. It's going to be really weird. So Josh Jacobs in a Packers jersey. It's going to be weird.
Saquon
Like,
in an Eagles jersey.
yeah. Oh God. Yeah. I mean, Giants are definitely going to burn his jersey. So
Yeah. Kirk Cousins in a Falcons jersey. That's going to
yeah,
be weird too. It's
yeah,
all good. Yeah, it's going to be. I mean, it's a big shakeup this year. I
yeah,
think that's why we needed to spend a long time on that. It's because I mean, there's a lot to
yeah,
talk about. It's such a huge shakeup.
yeah. I agree.